Hi, my name's Rich Harrington.
And I'm Robbie Carmen.
And today we're going to visit back to HDMI and monitoring in general. I think there's some cool things that we haven't touched on.
Yeah, specifically going this idea of HDMI to SDI or SDI to HDMI and that back and forth. People hear about these little magical little switch boxes and devices that can make that happen, but maybe have never seen one before.
Yeah, what we find is that there's a lot of great HDMI monitors out there. All sorts of folks, Marshall, Small HD, Flanders.
Even regular computer monitors have HDMI on them these days.
Yeah, and this is a great way of monitoring, but you may already have a professional field monitor in your arsenal, and for a couple $100 you could start using it.
Absolutely, and most of these professional field monitors, like this little Panasonic guy here, are either going to have analog component connections or composite connections.
Yeah.
Or more likely, if they're relatively new, they'll also have SDI, SD-SDI, or HD-SDI connections on them. And usually that's just with a single BNC type plug.
Yeah, and so to work with that, we have a converter box here from AJA. Blackmagic makes these. Lots of folks make these.
Yeah, and they're relatively cheap too. I mean, they look very utilitarian. It's just a metal box with a couple plugs on it.
Yeah.
And in this case, this little guy, what it actually allows me to do is plug in an HDMI source, and in this case, it's my camera here. And then on the other side, it spits out an HD SDI signal.
Yeah, and this one actually does two, so you can go to second monitor.
Yeah, so like if you had a monitor that you're using for, say, yourself running the camera or a director right there, you could then run another cable out to, say, a client monitor sitting behind the set, that kind of thing. And then on the monitor itself, just a single BNC connection right into the monitor, HD SDI.
Yeah, so this is great. The key here when you're shopping for these is they make them go both directions, like HD SDI in, HDMI out. You want the other way, HDMI in to HD SDI.
Yeah, and the other important thing to note about these adapters is that most of the time they're going to be full-size HDMI plugs on the actual adapter box itself.
Right.
But on the camera side of things, just keep in mind that it's usually a mini HDMI plug instead of the full-size plug.
Right, so you're going to want to make sure you have the right cabling. Now, so we've got this, and of course, one of the things we like to do is calibrate our monitor, and for that, one way is color bars, except these don't make color bars.
That's true, yeah. I mean, color bars are a tried and true method of calibrating monitors. Now, I'm just going to get up on my soapbox since you get up on yours every once in a while. I'm going to get up on mine. The one thing about calibrating monitors is that color bars are an easy, cheap, free way to do it, right? In terms of overall accuracy, calibrating a monitor with color bars is not truly 100% accurate. The best way to do that is with a lot of expensive gear and dedicated spectroradiometers and all that kind of stuff. But chances are you're not going to spend $30,000 on a probe to calibrate your 5-inch monitor, right? So in that case, standard color bars.
This does more good than it does harm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So how do we go about doing that? Well, we've designed a little workaround that doesn't work with all cameras, but works with a lot. And it starts by shooting a JPEG to your memory card. So fire off one.
Yep. Let's go ahead here. I'll just go back into my photo mode here. I'll just go and we'll take a photo.
There we go.
Okay, so I got a photo. It doesn't really matter what the photo is.
Yep. And
Just take that guy out.
I'll pop the card and I'll put it into my card reader, and I'm just going to use Photoshop to open up the image. Now, this is just going to go real quick. It's really simple. We'll just go to Photoshop, choose File, Open, and navigate out to the card. Find our still. There it is. Open it up. I don't want to do anything to modify it. I don't want to change the size. I don't want to, change anything about it, except I'm going to drop in some color bars.
Except you're going to replace my lovely candles.
Yes, I'll do File, Place, and I'll navigate out to a still that has color bars. You could export this from your NLE. There's lots of ways of doing it. Obviously, it's going to be too small, but if you just hold down Shift and Option, you could proportionally scale that up, and then just stop when you get to the edges. There's the bars. Yep. And then on the background for the layers, we'll just go ahead and quickly fill that in. Let's just take this full screen here for a second. There we go. And for the background, we'll just select that and fill it with black. And then we flatten the image, and we just close it and save it. Don't change the compression. Don't do anything other than take the defaults that's there.
Yep.
And then spit that out.
Okay, then I'm guessing we'll pop that back into the camera.
Yep. Wait for it to unmount. There we go. All right.
Okay, and then what we'll do is just come down to the camera and press play here. And in 1 second, there are our color bars.
Yeah. So now you could do the standard sort of things you would to calibrate your monitor. Now, we're not going to go into all of this. We could talk more about monitor calibration. There's lots of great tutorials online here at the Cow as well. But the important thing here is we actually have color bars, and that would allow you to go in, look at your targets. Are you hitting those? Works pretty well.
Yeah, it does. And I mean, again, this is a easy, free, cheap way of doing this.
Yeah.
And getting those monitors. The other way to do it is, of course, is if you had the time before you actually went out into the field, what you could do is simply connect your field monitor, say your nonlinear editor system, if you had SDI out or whatever, and just bring up color bars in, say, Final Cut or Premiere or something like that, and then pre-calibrate it, there before you go out into the field as well. But this is a good method.
Yeah, nice and simple. Gives you bars, ability to use those professional monitors with that HDMI to HD SDI adapter. Good thing to add to your kit, because it's not only going to let you take the camera output and put it here, but it's going to give you a second video tap, so you could add a second client monitor.
Yeah, and then, one other thing that I think we should mention real quick, Rich, is about these HDMI adapters. Is that one of the things you have to be wary of, especially when it comes to HDMI, is cable length.
Right.
HDMI cables cannot go extreme distances like SDI can. So what a lot of people choose to do is actually mount these either directly to like a camera cage or on their tripod or something like that, so that way they can run extremely long cable lengths to other monitors, and they have a very short HDMI run.
Great. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Creative Cow DSLR Essentials podcast. My name's Rich Harrington.
And I'm Robbie Carmen.
And be sure to head on over to creativecow.net, where you can check out the DSLR forum, as well as click on the podcast tab to see the back episodes. Thanks for joining us.